Hey YouTube, I'm gonna get Instagram started and we'll all be virtually here. It's a weird time to be alive. Welcome, thanks for being here. And God said, "Let there be a big bang." And in 1993, in St. Louis, Missouri, two people were like, "Let's bang." And then what they made this show. Human, 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 human. At the ripe old age of 26, I've decided that I'm ready to share about my life in a form of one-sided group therapy for entertainment purposes. Welcome, and thank you for being here. I'm gonna smoke some weed that I don't have with me at this moment. There's gonna be a PowerPoint that says, "This is a PSA for my current cannabis usage, not yours. What tool impacts everyone the same way all of the time? Also, stoners who bash non-stoners are like vegans who preach compassion to animals and then bash non-vegan humans." Life is weird. Life may be the weirdest thing that we all do, and it's weird to me how little that weirdness is acknowledged. Well, it's depressing more than weird because philosophizing is a privileged activity at the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, PowerPoint showing Maslow's pyramid. And so the lack of acknowledgement about how weird it is to be human is directly connected to the lack of basic resource distribution. I have a theory that part of the lack of resource distribution comes from a lack of discussion about life being weird for all humans. It's like we're all pretending that life isn't messy, it isn't a paradox, and it isn't a beautiful gift that's totally unclear how we all received and why. I also have a corollary theory that this lack of discussion is both correlated and causated, yes, causated, by two beliefs. One, the belief that something is intangible is just talking about the human experience cannot possibly produce any tangible results. And two, the belief that everyone else has figured out how to human and so is in complete control over their thoughts, feelings, and breathing at all the times. Thesis statement. No one ever fully figures out how to human. There's themes of the human experience because all humans are human. And the most effective way to minimize human suffering is to maximize the distribution of basic human resources. The energy, both scientifically, ATP, money, time, and spiritually, the vibes needed to maximize basic resource distribution is statistically significantly less than the energy needed to manage the repercussions of avoidable human suffering caused by a lack of basic resource distribution. A therapist once told me, compassionately and accurately, that I was lecturing about the human experience and my feelings and feelings generally. This call out and call in was psychology speak for you're philosophizing about the human experience rather than saying any "I feel" statements. And I feel statements are literally foundational to talk therapy. Okay, well, I feel statements being challenging is part of the human condition. I intensely resisted talk therapy for a while. How could I possibly be sad and anxious when I had and have had full access to basic human resources? And how was and is me talking about my feelings going to help equitably distribute basic human resources? I first accepted my feelings as relevant, as suggested, by the thoughts put forward from modern psychology, psychopharmacology, and biological mechanics, as well as canon literature and ancient spiritual texts. Feeling that feelings are my intuition or whatever feelings created word label still sometimes feels like a big cosmic joke. This joke is most excessively felt, high lecturing, when laughing, crying, singing, dancing, and or orgasming. Feelings are felt physically, and that comforts my left brain a lot. Being hungry and or horny are physiological experiences directly connected to feeling surprised, happy, sad, disgusted, angry, fearful, and or bad. PowerPoint here will show the emotion wheel. Food and fucking are the biological how and why of us all being here, and two of my favorite examples of how no human fully knows how to human. Food and fucking both require forgiveness because we're gonna fuck up our food and food up our fucking sometimes. For those of you who are in denial, which is the first stage of grief, which is a feeling about feeling feelings, I feel you. And also human, you're a human. You're a fucking human. All humans are human because all humans feel feelings. We can only feel our own feelings, and also we feel feelings about other people feeling their feelings all of the time. It's a total clusterfuck. We know what hungry and horny feel like in our own bodies, and we know that other humans experience hunger and horniness because those feelings literally had to happen for us to now exist here feeling feelings. While grief is a feeling, it's also an inescapable part of the human experience. Because everybody dies and nobody takes anything with them when they go, it makes no logical sense to hoard more basic resources than you and your children's children could use in all of your lifetimes. Plus, you have those resources because of the privileges related to compounded historical inequities. I'm lecturing again with some feelings. Philosophizing, it gives thoughts about feelings, which are often followed by more intellectualized justifications for feelings-based actions. At least that's my feelings-based philosophy for the feelings-based action of creating the show. Too many flips. Making this whatever this is and has been, whatever this is and has been and will be, has been a really huge part of my personal How to Human manual, which is my coping with human existence. I offer it with the wish that it's helpful to someone else in their own humaning. Art uses feelings to make things that produce feelings in others, which can then be used to make more art and more feelings. If that doesn't convince you of interconnection, then maybe umbilical cords or the literal sharing of oxygen molecules when breathing near someone does. Connection is the theme of the human experience that's been given lots of labels and is, in my feelings-based opinion, a feeling of peace and love and trust. The meaning of life list. Peace, love, trust, food, fucking. This show is only going to get more nerdy yoga teachery. Connection means that altruism is selfish because we can each only be centered on ourselves and because helping others directly helps us too. Hi humans, I'm a human named Annie. I self-identify as a self-identifying human. I'm an ENFJ, Enneagram Type 8, Capricorn Sun, Taurus Rising, Sag Moon, manifesting generator, and I love long walks on the beach. I love the science of feelings and the feeling of science, and I love wordplay because words in life are total nonsense. I believed that becoming a physician was how I could make the biggest possible positive impact on the world. And then I noped off that path before even applying to medical school to instead be another Jew in entertainment. As energy can be neither created nor destroyed, I redirected a lot of obsessive and compulsive tendencies about my desires for black and white rules about food and fucking and humaning generally into this one-sided group therapy meets social theory experimenting meets entertainment project. Our best qualities are also our worst qualities, often. What's up to duality? I'm here with the best parts of my worst parts to offer another framework for organizing humaning. Selfishly, this gives my obsessive compulsive parts a use that helps me to be more gentle with them. Nobody knows how to human, and also I feel that there's 10 C themes of the human experience connected by the theme of connection. At least this is a list of 10 C themes of one human's feelings experiences. Also, I am neither the first nor the last to use a base 10 sort of system. PowerPoint will show a list of countries that do not use the metric system. There's 3 of them. My hypothesis is that by intangibly remembering connection through shared frameworks of organizing humaning, we can tangibly shift structures for basic resource distribution. Maybe Maslow's pyramid can also work circularly like time. And maybe pretend structures can also help you to accept the chaos that is apparently human existence. I'm going to go through each C one at a time, and there's a final exam at the end of this, and we're all going to fail. There'll be an audience poll after each C is presented. The polls will be based on the bell curve, which is a C on its side, and my favorite graphical representation of humaning, and the middle way path. Are you ready for some graphical self-reflection? Poll number 1. Point to the spot on the bell curve that shows your current feelings about the black and white spectrum from life is all chaos to life is all structure. And in the future, this will show all the averages with computer technological advances. All right, here we go. C number 1, consciousness. Where is your awareness? The first of the 10 C's is consciousness. Consciousness is awareness, is attention, is focusing, is noticing. Western science was really convinced that consciousness originated in the brain for a while there, and then they had to accept that the data suggests further study of concepts like muscle memory and the gut brain. Yay for new data, and yay for ignoring the placebo effect. I feel like human consciousness originates throughout the whole body and connects somehow in ways that may be ununderstandable. Magnetocardiography is a whole field of study, and the PowerPoint will show the heart electromagnetic field. Consciousness seems to be the final frontier of neuroscience, and sleep will probably be the big stepping stone breakthrough right before. From the perspective of my consciousness, epigenetics, which studies the influence of the environment on genetics, is science speak for intergenerational and collective consciousness exists. Conscious awareness is another form of energy that is only transferable, and so it can be neither created nor destroyed. Ideas are eternal. The consciousness competition, or woke off, or whatever you want to call it, has gotten more people to practice mindfulness, and it's also created this culture around shaming people for not knowing things. Everyone having access to the internet is different from everyone having the time and other resources to learn all of the things. And also, unknowns are part of knowns. There is no point of knowing everything, and I'm saying this out loud as much as possible to remind myself of this, because the more we know there is to know. Conscious reality is consensus-based, meaning that the sum of consciousnesses creates the collective consciousness. Truth is relative, and objectivity is the sum of subjectivities. Subjectivities are built from what an individual is conscious of, which is built from how their genetic nature responds and reacts to their environmental nurture. Nature and nurture create cycles, which create humans, which create cycles. It's the circle of life. The challenging and fun game that life seems to present is being aware that you're a human being for long enough chunks of each day to be a human doing of authentic actions that effectively help you along your path of human beingness. Breath and thoughts may be the only 2 things that we do and do not have conscious control over, and that one fucks with my consciousness. Also, if you were playing the game, you've just won and lost depending on your conscious perspective. That realization of, whoa, I'm not present at all right now, is equally as conscious as, wow, I'm so present right now. And guess which one my woke ego gets off more about, and then beats itself up about getting ego attached to. Please self-reflect on the bell curve here on the graph of consciousness at this moment. How are you feeling from so conscious to so unconscious? C2. The second of the 10 C's is choice. To me, your body, your choice applies to safe access to abortions and pretty much everything. How we choose to do something matters less than what we choose to do, sure. And also, what we choose to do or not do still feels relevant. Choose happiness is a really silly reminder to give to people, as literally all decisions are made towards maximizing happiness. On the meaning of life list, be happy. What else is really motivating decision making? Oh yeah, the lack of basic resources. Choice makes me think a lot about food and fucking again, which are two very tangible choices. Food and fucking are, again, necessary parts of species survival, and resting up for said food and fucking. The rest of life is an overchoice buffet, puns intended. Overchoice is part of what makes choice so challenging, because more options can make more space to doubt our choices. Choice is a privilege. And privilege existing means that inequitable resource distribution exists, which means that there are people that make choices they may not otherwise make based on resource constraints. How much less stealing and violence could there be if basic human resources were acknowledged as a basic human right? People are still going to choose shitty shit sometimes because we're humans. And still, a lot of that shitty shit seems preventable. Plus, imagine all of the other choices that people could put their energy towards besides worrying about feeding and housing themselves. I choose to believe that many of the other destructive decisions that people make come from their neglected inner parts. I share this because I've definitely left some of my parts behind and then later had them say hello through my choices. Choices are funny because they require all of our many inner parts, our beautiful, paradoxical inner clusterfucks, to work together towards a common goal. And the PowerPoint will show a picture from Inside Out, the movie. Whether we're conscious or not, all of our parts are coming with us everywhere. On the bell curve graph of humaning, choice goes between the extremes of complete or none's control over our choices. Free will is either the truest of truths over here, and free will is a total facade over here. So where do you feel right now? Free will, yay or nay? All the way, none of the way. Change is the third of the 10 C's. Nature, which we came from and are a part of, reminds us that change is constant. The only permanence is impermanence. Change often occurs in cycles, like seasons going in cycles, and like planets going around the sun in cycles, like the cyclical shape of said spherical planets, and like the circular rise of the flat Earth theory. Change being cyclical is the best evidence that I've come across to believe that time is a circle. I've taken time being a circle or a spiral too far sometimes, for sure. I agree that time is made up, and also time is a super helpful way to know when to meet someone at a restaurant for dinner. We made up language also, and that's a mostly helpful tool for humans collectively. Maybe next time that I hear someone say time is made up, I'll respond with silence in solidarity and as a reminder to them that language is also made up. The hero's journey is another helpful tool for my head to wrap itself around change, and the PowerPoint will show a picture of the hero's journey cycle. The monomyth circle gives a template of storytelling. A human responds to the call of adventure, shit hits the fan for said human, and then the hero is reborn on the other side of the circle, a more human human. The experiences then go along with that human on their next cycle around the circle. You spin my head right round, and okay. One of my favorite human paradoxes is our desire for both everything and nothing to change. To know that death is part of life, and to suspend our disbelief for the show of life. Death is the ultimate life change that all humans encounter. No matter how tidy my room is, how aligned my posture is, how consistently I meditate in the morning, I'm still going to die one day. In my experience, fearing death and fearing life feel pretty similar. If there's no life and no death, then the extremist in me wants to believe that either nothing ever changes or everything is always changing. So, what about you? Please point on the bell curve here from the extreme of the spectrum that everything's always changing to nothing is ever changing. Time is eternal. The fourth of the 10 C's is compassion. Compassion means sitting with suffering, embracing it in its totality, and releasing any efforts to fix anything. While desires to problem solve show a deep caring about the problem, skipping the compassion to go straight to problem solving mode neglects the suffering, which is counterproductive towards minimization. Suffering connects us because everybody hurts sometimes. Good vibes only would mean that good is no longer a thing because there can be no good vibes without bad vibes. Then they'd all be vibes. The amount of suffering in the world is more than any one human can sit with on their own. It's beyond anyone's biological boundaries. Connection says hi again to remind us that we need compassionate support to sit with the emotional weight of the world together. If any one of us were meant to be living in the universe alone, we would. Having compassion for yourself means giving those you trust the gift of helping you. And again, I'm doing that say it until I believe it. We are here to serve others, and so the requirement of serving ourselves first is exceedingly confusing. My ego was so excited to learn that the meaning or a meaning of life was to serve others, and then at a major loss to learn the paradox that I must give to myself in order to do that. It's egotistical for any one human to believe they can save all humans, she says in her one-woman show about helping minimize human suffering. It seems like an extreme continuation about the beliefs that created the individualistic, imperialistic US culture. Extremism is black and white thinking. Some things in life are black and white, and saying nothing is black and white is more black and white thinking. Black and white are required boundaries for the full, infinite range of gray on the spectrum. The dualist in me says that there's only two emotions. Pleasure and pain show an example of black and white, sexually and otherwise. And people are into what they're into as it relates to food and fucking, certainly, and also as it relates to literally all of the things. Kinks and impulses and preference aren't going anywhere. And again, shame is counterproductive. Kill him with kindness. Okay, so on the bell curve, is life all pleasure or all pain to you at this moment? Does it feel like all a bunch of tension or all a bunch of release? The fifth C is communication. Communication is more than language. Yes, and language is a super helpful tool and form of communication. Like dollars, language is a mostly solid effort at standardizing descriptions about reality that has helpful and harmful consequences. I'm convinced that the majority of comedy comes from miscommunications, and then communicating through those, which inevitably creates more miscommunications. Because communication starts first with our individual mind-body communication, two people communicating first means their individual minds and bodies are communicating. It's layered like an onion. PowerPoint will show the Shrek onion quote. Larger and larger groups of humans introduce more and more layers and opportunities to say communication. Most of what we're communicating is our wants and our needs, which means first checking in with our own mind-body communication to figure out those wants and needs. You can go be a non-communicative hermit somewhere. Again, your body, your choice. I really do mean that. I believe that I statements are the only honest statements we can really make with language. With words and more, everyone is telling everyone where they are all day, picking up conversations that they left off in their head. Adults really aren't that different from two toddlers who are still learning how to actively listen and respond to one another and engage, rather than saying whatever thought and feeling comes up as it arises. Art is communication. Art is a tool for self-expression. Self-expression is communicating with yourself, which is a part of learning about yourself. I'm learning and now expressing. How you communicate with yourself is how you communicate with everybody. What goes around comes around. Now I'm communicating like a cut and paste of common communications. If we're feeling mostly the same things, then we're going to communicate mostly the same. Have you ever had a friend who said some slang or phrase that annoyed the fuck out of you at first, and then before you realized what happened, you were using it? Communication. On the bell curve between extremes, I view communication as going between totally my responsibility or totally about someone else's responsibility. I'm making it either totally about the expression or totally about the reception. Part of me wants to put everything on the communicator or everything on the receiver, and then my self-loathing part will say that any miscommunication is all about my mishumaning. Blame, for the record, is another form of self-control. Control. Self-blame is another form of control. Please point, on that note, to the bell curve of communication between you recently focusing more on talking, hey, or more on listening. The sixth C is community. You become who you surround yourself with. Family is our first, relatives are our first community, and Freud and all of psychology and seemingly all humans have a lot to say about families. Whatever someone is first exposed to will be normal to them until they're exposed to something else, generally. No one chooses their family, at least not consciously. In families and in larger communities, disagreement seems to be a necessary part of communities finding agreement. Constant kumbaya is unrealistic. What's important is how the disagreement is disagreed. I disagree with the neglect of this truth. While nonviolent communication encourages a focus on I statements and the silliness of you made me feel statements, we do make each other feel feelings often. Well, there is no you made me feel. There is definitely a you cause pain to my body with physical violence. Physical violence has a gender. Physical violence has a gender. Sexual violence is most likely perpetrated by someone the victim already knows. These are facts, not comedy. Not even attempts at comedy. Gun violence, cyberbullying, and more continue because they continue to be accepted by communities. Speaking out about these issues is very different than creating structures with direct consequences for these choices. Community norms really quickly become standard. One of many very unsettling community norms is that humans are drafted into the military to kill other humans, when that exact same action in a different context could end with them being punished by death. What? Another unsettling community norm is that a marriage license has a longer waiting period than a gun license. Well, prohibition of anything has ever worked out. Children doing active shooter drills in schools is literally asking for more people to need therapy for PTSD and other disorders. Community creates safety using accountability. That sense of knowing someone who knows someone is both a built-in asshole protection program and a reminder that we're all way more connected than we sometimes feel. The internet is potentially the first community that must navigate social norms without the ability to completely banish anybody, even with cancel culture. There's no being kicked off the internet, aside from temporarily losing Wi-Fi access. The internet community is instrumental both in the creation of the global economy and in the creation of a daily reminder about all getting along to some degree. The internet also gives us a resource to remember that there are infinitely more communities than any one person can ever know about, and a reminder that someone is going to dislike literally everything, including a cute puppy picture. Trolls are humans. The extremist in me sometimes wants to put people in boxes as being either trolls or comrades at me on communism and socialism. Also, it's just as extreme capitalism. So I believe either I'm supposed to do everything by myself on one extreme or everything directly connected with someone on the other extreme. Please point to your feelings on the bell curve graph of community between totally isolated and totally enmeshed. The seventh C is creation. We were all created, and we all create things. Creation occurs in a cycle with consumption. Nature is built from cycles, which is part of why nature is sexed as female, Mother Nature and Father Time. The future is female feels like a really well-intentioned sorority sister to me. And same for whitewashed feminism generally, though more toxic. I get it. I appreciate what she's selling. Her hair, her makeup, the outfit, it all looks really cute. And I'm not buying it. We've seen a hyper male world. So a hyper female world feels like the food equivalent of ending the restrict binge cycle. The PowerPoint will show the Rick and Morty episode clip from the female planet that says, "I'm here if you need to talk." I am. Sex and gender seem unlikely to go away. Gender seems more likely to disappear, at least fade, as it has no biological basis, though it's often used and can be helpful to describe. Gender being able to be literally neither or both is literally chromosomally reflected, with the possibilities besides just XX and XY. Sex and gender are really relevant to discuss for health and procreation and sexuality. Sex can also be a verb, meaning that there's an exchange. And if you can make love, then that sounds like a verb to me. Abortion is a really sensitive topic, which makes sense again, as literally everything about it is a very sensitive procedure. One of the many weird things about abortions is that it's only ever a direct question for roughly half the population in a very specific window of their lifetime. Some humans literally never know what it's like to experience a period. And some humans never know what it's like to experience feeling safe walking, mostly everywhere at any time of the day. If women were making laws about men's bodies like men are making about women's bodies, my guess is that there would be way less funding for Viagra research. Penis humans deserve sexual pleasure just as much as vagina humans and hybrid superhumans, and there's already a pill to help with erectile dysfunction, and pregnancy is still the leading cause of completely redirecting someone's life and increasing the population, which impacts the entire population. Feelings. Please make your polls whatever you create here, yin, yang, feminine, masculine, creation, consumption, and place yourself on the bell curve at this moment. The 8th of the 10 C's is charge. Life has a charge on a cellular level. Fruitarians and certain brand ambassadors alike have said that fruit or a certain product is hydrating on a cellular level. Myself and many others have responded, "Excuse me, what?" Cellularly, there are positive and negative charges, which attract, and there are charges which are neutral, and they're still called charges. There's also a thing called electric induction, which is the alternating current that powers our buildings, and is the name for the phenomenon when two like charges attract. Like attracts like. Enter the law of attraction and similar concepts. Many a spiritual woo-woo discuss iterations of the idea that you attract more of what you are, which is often used as a way to inspire people to claim full responsibility of their lives and be their most human self, and human self. It also gets used to shame people for calling in negativity to their life, and I have for sure used that belief to talk negatively about myself. To me, charge means the phrase pay attention. Attention is paid, and it's perhaps our most precious resource. Spend your attention towards your purpose, so first find said purpose. Everything is energy is a sentiment expressed by the most scientific and spiritual extremists, and I agree with both of them. ATP and life force they're just words, and ironically they're all charged. Karma in Hinduism and Buddhism has direct parallels with Newton's third law of thermodynamics. Every action must have an equal and opposite reaction. The data here would suggest that they're both onto something. It also feels important to note again that energy can be neither created nor destroyed. It's recycled through changes instigated by communication within communities, and we can choose compassion, or at least create some wordplay. Charge is purpose to me, and also it's energy. Everything is energy, and even heat and light energy are closer to intangible than tangible. We can measure some parts of energy in some ways, like the scientifically accepted energy measurement of heat. A measurement of cold, interestingly, is totally non-existent. There's only measuring the absence of heat. You matter and you energy is one of the most profound floatings around the internet, I feel. The classic humaning yes and. You're matter and you're energy. You're like light. You're a particle and you're a wave. My black and white thinking tends towards the belief that light and humans can only be one or the other sometimes. A particle, a moment in time, or a vibe flowing through a moment. So on the bell curve, does life currently feel more to you like a particle or like a wave? Or your charged reflection? Are you going through it, or are you like right in the moment? The ninth C is curiosity. I'm reminding you, to remind myself, that all I can ever do is stay curious. I support people experimenting with whatever mental health tools their inner being, which again, only they have access to, feels may be helpful, that are not directly harmful. You do you is literally the only option. Do what you need to do to not kill yourself. I took Zoloft for a decade, and I took Xanax and Ativan acutely. For those not familiar, Zoloft is brand name for what is generically called sertraline, which is an SSRI. SSRI is an acronym for Selective Serotonin Reuptake Inhibitor, which is science speak for, while exact methodology is unclear, this combination of chemicals seems to soothe the pain of human existence for some humans. I was prescribed Zoloft to help manage obsessive-compulsive disorder, anxiety, and depression. OCD and anxiety were much louder parts for me than depression initially, I believe as a form of self-protection. And for me personally, Zoloft numbed all of them. For me, again, personally, only experience I can speak from, pharmaceuticals made me feel less connected to myself. Psychiatric medications are a tool that, like any tool, won't work for everyone. Also, it won't work sustainably if it's the only tool being used. I decided to experiment without Zoloft because 10 years felt like I gave it a really fair chance to work for me. Who knows what tools I'll use in the future and how. Coffee used to smell like dirt to me, then I liked it, and then I disliked it again. While any dogma is dogma, learning about dogmas can be a helpful way to stay curious and learn about yourself. That's my current belief, and I'm doing my most dogmatic best to resist getting dogmatic. Autoethnography, which is a fancy word for research, is actually what all research is because any researcher cannot fully remove themselves from the research. Double-blind studies wouldn't exist otherwise. Spiritual bypassing is a similar situation of an attempt to manipulate and maneuver around reality and the ego, and telling people just to meditate away their depression if medication is working for them. The more someone says that they're egoless, the more attached to their ego I believe them to be. That's my ego's current dogma. Curiosity can be motivated by ego and also by soul, and both motivations can teach us. Between ego and heart, soul feelings, both of which are relevant and part of you. What fuels your current curiosity from one end of the extreme to the other? The 10th C is courage. Speaking of my hand not shaking as much as at the beginning. Courage is unfakeable. Yes, and fake it till you make it. Brene Brown blew the truck up because she focused on something that everyone feels, and she shared about it with courage. And now vulnerability is like super in. Queen BB, and the PowerPoint here will show a picture of Beyonce next to Brene Brown, reminded us that courage requires strength and that strength requires vulnerability. To use a line learned from Queen BB, the story I told myself my whole life was that strength meant muscles and force, and that vulnerability was this heavy thing that then necessitated self-deprecation, like about my wording, and or silly voices, and or faces, to bring lightness to the situation so that no one would retreat or lash out. Faith is courage, which is differentiated from confidence, which is differentiated from conceit. Part of faith is doubt, and lack of any doubt ever is really easy to put several psychological labels on. Living requires faith because doubt is a part of life. Attaching to non-attachment is still attachment, and faith that faith is wrong is still faith. That Jesus fish that says Darwin inside of it is hilarious, and it's also a literal symbol for faith in science. Faith in something seems to be an inevitable part of humaning because otherwise what is getting you into and out of bed? On the bell curve for the 10th of the 10 C's, are you feeling more connected to faith or to doubt recently? Those are the HumAnnie 10 C's. They consciously choose to change compassion, communication, and community by creating charges of curiosity and courage. Honorable mention C words include contrast, conviction, control, collaboration, and cunt. Let the record show that cunt is synonymous with creation to me. Being human is fucking weird. It's also fucking fabulous. It is a fucking clusterfuck. We're all in this together. We're humans having spiritual experiences, and we're spirits having human experiences. It is a weird and fabulous human clusterfuck. Basic needs must be covered for there to be any time and space for philosophizing and feeling feelings, which are also human rights. Maslow's pyramid, again, in the PowerPoint. A focus on self-actualization is potentially as evolutionarily grounded as a focus on basic needs. Not talking about the lack of food and basic resource distribution is not working. The golden rule to treat people how you want to be treated is literally the only thing all religions agree on. Unfortunately, since the creation of the concept of money, the rule has shifted to the one with the gold makes the rules. Having capitalism involved in basic resources is literally a recipe for emotional destabilization. Capitalism uses this instability to psychologically manipulate people into buying external things that they believe will allow them to find internal happiness. Those are facts. Here's an opinion that sounds like an evil plan to me. An evil plan is different from a conspiracy theory, for the record. What evidence do we have to show that humans are that collectively organized anyways? Oh yeah, the higher distribution of soda and cigarettes and Wi-Fi than that of any food or any form of birth control. The economy cannot be manifested away, and also it needs intentional input from a variety of sources in order to manifest ethically. To me, capitalism has gone too far when it gets involved in healthcare, education, and rehabilitation. It's very interesting how the people who support prisons as an industry, let's give people money to lock people up, what the actual fuck, seem to be the same people who refuse to accept that sex work, which is literally the oldest professional industry, as real work. Work is a weird concept dependent on the other weird concept of money. Art price ranges also tangibly show how made up and bullshit these concepts are. My best idea to get people to share their made up dollars for real resources to equitably distribute basic human resources is to get everyone to reflect on their feelings more, which means reflecting on mine and sharing run-on sentences and this whole thing. My high school senior superlative of the least likely to not say something, here it is. Where is the Love by the Black Eyed Peas has said most of what I've already said here. So again, no new ideas. We're somehow all in this life thing, all together and all alone. Yes, suffering exists, and also would be a really silly reason for us all to be here. You say nice things to your friends and you wish nice things for them. So why not say the same for yourself? Again, I'm reminding myself here. The final bell curve pole goes from the belief that you matter way less than everyone else to the belief that you matter way more than everyone else. And the final bell curve poll for a bonus poll. Do you like yourself a lot more or a lot less than from the start of this show? I have a song to share that I'm not gonna accompany because I don't have the out right now. You can watch a video of it with a recorded background. Thank you, shout out to Lizzo and shout out to George Carlin for Truth Hurts as a song. And the George Carlin quote that says, I love individuals and I hate groups of people. Okay. Why are humans great until they get in big groups? Thank you, Lizzo and George Carlin. I just glanced at history. It turns out humans project their internal shit, leads to other humans hurt, dying early. Yeah, the planet's got problems because we fucked her up. She'll still be here after we're not that fucking tough. We could all be nice to each other, share resources, remember food's a human right, so's taking courses, clean water for everyone, and comfy places for sleeping. Call it socialism or call it ethics. Come the fuck on, humans. Why are humans great until they get in big groups? Don't share shit and act like that's not the case. Money's made up and so's the whole economy. Resource abundance can be numerically seen. For-profit prison is a, by the words, a fucked up place. Tell me otherwise, I'll throw statistics in your face. Truth hurts, Maslow's pyramid is relevant. Patterns, trends, and learning. Now let's fucking do something about it. The internet connects us all, shows us what's there. Belief in disconnection is the first real joke from the start. I mean, we're all literally born dependent on another human being. It's not even a metaphor for interconnection. I will never, ever, ever understand how I continually forget this. I need other people to remember. That is why I'm here to surrender, so I can hang with friends. Encourage resource distribution. If cigs and sodas, then why not food, clothes, and condoms? Why are humans great until they get in big groups? Get dogmatic, act like somehow they don't also poop. We're all humans, so we have the same biology. And evolution literally needs diversity. No new ideas, preaching love is now on trend to do. Somehow resource distribution is still awfully skewed. Truth hurts, we could change this if we wanted to. Prioritize basic human needs. I'ma let this go in a minute. I swear I'll drop the topic in a minute. I don't fuck with lies. I'll keep asking why. Equity will keep increasing. I. Golden rule still applies in a minute. Hunger is still a thing in a minute. No more turning cheeks. We could solve this in 3 weeks. Hoarding money is still hoarding. Sharing may just help you sleep. Why are humans great until they gotta be great? I get that organizing is a big challenge to do. It still seems like we could do it if we all pitched in. If you're watching this, go send it to your wealthy friends. We all die in dollars, will not change that fact of life. No one takes things with them when they go, not even strife. We're connected, so we all hurt from inequities. Hurt people, when will all us humans finally see? Distribution is a solvable problem. Prioritize basic human needs. Prioritize basic human needs.